Creating the content for your weekly classes, your live classroom sessions, is one of the most creative and fun things to do with online classes. However, there are a couple of things that it's important for you to know about the best way to create that content so that you will have better success whenever you go to load it into your Blackboard classroom. We're going to go through a few basics, and I'm going to show you the two best options for being able to create content. The first is going to be using PowerPoint. Now, there are two primary ways that you can get PowerPoint. One is through purchasing a standalone product like 2010 or 2013 for PC, or 2011, 2008, or 2011 for Mac. The other way is a new cloud-based version that they have called Office 365. Now, what you're seeing here on the screen is in Office 365, so this does not actually live, the software does not reside on my computer. I can work offline, but I have to have internet access to be able to really interact with it. So because of that, let's go over just a few basics. The images for Blackboard must be static. No transitions, no animations, they are not supported. So essentially, regardless of how you get the content in there, it's a snapshot. It's an image of the slide that then displays on the whiteboard in the classroom. It's important to make sure you include a cover slide with the week and the date. Include assignments for the week, and remember to be creative and use images, and think active learning. The more engaged students can be with answering questions, responding to polls, engaging with the content, the more they're going to enjoy the class, and the more you will be able to help ensure that they retain the content. So this is an example of a very basic cover slide that has the class name, it also has the date, and it has which class. So this was for a summer class, so I might say week 12 or week 2, week 1, whatever it is. And if I was doing this through the school year, then I would probably do August 11th, depending on what date my class was within this, and this is going to be week 1, so that students are very clear about what week it is when they go to look in the class pages for their assignments. So an example of using imagery, this is an agenda from a class about working with data using charts and graphs, and I actually used a chart to be able to demonstrate this. You can also use images in the background, and learning how to really maximize the effectiveness of PowerPoint is going to be something that you will want to spend some time doing, because this can really make your slide presentations a lot more engaging whenever you can make creative slide decks. Okay, so we also have the list of the weekly assignment so that they know exactly what's expected of them to work on throughout the week. Whether it's one thing or whether it's one thing a day, you need to make sure that you communicate that very clearly, not only in the deck, but during class and on the class pages, so that they're hearing it and they're getting that information multiple ways. Now, we talked about different options for different computers. So if you have a Mac, let's go through that really quickly. We talked about Office 365, which is essentially Microsoft Office 2011, but cloud-based. And if you use Office 365, then you will be required to save your decks as JPEG images. They will not load as PowerPoint files. If you use the standalone version to Microsoft Office 2008 or 2011 for Mac, then you can save as PowerPoint or PPTX. Please keep your file names very simple. If you don't use special characters, no spaces, you'll have better luck. And if you're interested in purchasing, it is available for $139 pretty much anywhere you look. Now, Google, we will look at in just a moment. You actually can use Google to create your presentations, but you have to save those as save each slide as an image one at a time. So if you decide not to go with the Microsoft Office paid version, then it takes a little bit more time to create those, and I will show you those. Now, LibreOffice and OpenOffice, which are free alternative, are not really viable options to be able to import presentations into Blackboard, because you can't save it as an image. You would have to save it as a PowerPoint, upload it into Google, and then save it as a slide one at a time, which adds a whole extra step. Saving it as PowerPoint or the native file type, we have not had success in loading, so I would not recommend that as an option. Alright, now let's take a look at PC options. Very similar. Office 365, which is the Microsoft Office 2013 cloud-based version, you can use, but you have to save it as a JPEG file. You can use any of the Microsoft Office PC 2007, 2010, 2013, and you can save as a PPT or PPTX file, again with the same best practices in naming your files. And that one is also available through the Microsoft Store if you go to Shop Products and then Office Suites for $139, and that is pretty much the best price that I could find pretty much anywhere. And Google, the same way, you can save one slide at a time. Again, I would not recommend LibreOffice or OpenOffice because there's a lot of extra steps involved and you don't really have very good feature options. Okay, so now let's take a look really quickly at saving as JPEGs for either the cloud-based version or Google. If you go to File, Save As, then you'll see here, I actually want to save it to my computer, and I'm going to save it to my desktop. So now you see here I have options about what I'm going to call this. So I'm going to call it, I'll just leave it as Presentation Options. But I have quite a few choices, and so I need to scroll to find JPEG File Interchange Format. That's the one I want to select, and it's asking me which slides I want to export. I want to do all of them. So the next thing it's telling me is that each slide has been saved as an individual file in a folder on the desktop named Presentation Options, and we'll actually load from this in an upcoming video so you can see how that works. Now the other thing that we need to be aware of is how to save these as files. So I would create a folder on my desktop called Faculty Meeting or whatever, Week 1 slide deck or whatever I want to call that, and then I simply select whichever, I would select them in order, and then I'm going to go to File and Download as JPEG image. Remember, it will not load unless you have Microsoft Office if you save as a PowerPoint. So this is to save as a JPEG. So you can save it, it saves the slide, and then you have to make sure that you put all of the slides into the folder that you'll be loading them from, and I'll show you how to rename those as well so that you can name the slides individually if you need to.